Hello, Donna here. You want to make this little laminated pouch? I'm going to show you how easy it is to make. You will need to have a laminator because it is laminated pouches that we're using, and some printed paper, or you can stamp up your own designs and make it up like that. I'll put the credits below to where I saw this idea from another creator, and you can go and check out the way that she made it. It's really cool. She made her own paper design to put in here. I've just used pre-printed papers. Now this one here was an A4 paper, but this time I'm going to use a 12 by 12. And if you've got any 12 by 12s that you need to use up, this is perfect for that. So you can put in little journals that you make, just little scrap type journals. You can put in some index cards and turn it into a recipe folder. It is just a handy little ephemera folder. So the first thing we're going to do is cut down this 12 by 12 into a A4 size. So I'm going to use an A4 piece of cardstock just as my template. It's just easier to trace around. So I'm just going to put a line there, a line there. Actually, I'm just going to cut it all the way up because it's just so close to being the right size. And cut that off. So I'm going to cut my first piece at 23 centimeters. There, and 23 centimeters there, and I'll cut that off. This is going to be the bottom of my pouch. So now I fold the bottom part in half, so that measures 11.5 centimeters. I'll put the measurements in inches for you as well, just so you can use your letter size paper and your inches. So that's the front of my pouch, which is this area here. Now we're going to make this area here, and it's got to go back to front. So if you can visualize that like that, we're going to have it like that, and we're going to flip it over. So this is going to be the top. So I've got to work out whether I want to cut off some of that area or that area. So I like this area here with a stamp. So that's going to be about 6.5 centimeters, just under. And I'm going to cut that as well. Now if you were starting with an A4 piece of paper, so it works out to be, if you cut off 6.5 centimeters off the top, or 2.5 inches, that will be your flap, and that will be your pocket. All we need to do is turn the flap over, fold the pocket in half, and then that becomes your pouch. So that's what we're aiming for. Now we're going to round the corners at the bottom. Right, so that's that done. Then we're going to round the corners at the bottom of the flap. I'm going to do them together without creasing the middle. Just going to sit them in there together, and that punch will work a little bit better. And that's both sides done at the same time. Now we need to line the back of this area here, because you're going to see that when we open the inside. So this one here, I've just lined it with a bit of craft paper. I've used this craft paper that I got from my friend Gayleen here in Australia. Thank you, Gayleen. I finally got to use it. It's on a roll. Now look at the shiny bit here. See this shiny bit? When you heat this shiny bit and you put it onto this bit here and iron it, it will stick to it. So we need to get a piece of the craft paper, and we're just cutting enough to do the job. So there, I'm going to cut it all the way down because I'm going to line the inside of the pocket here as well. It's a bit curly, but it still turns out okay. All right, now I'm going to cheat and I'm going to put this through my laminator and heat set it the quick way so I don't have to turn on the iron. Now I'll show you how I'll do this. I've just got some non-stick cooking paper here. I'm going to open this up, sit it inside, just sandwich it inside there and feed it into the laminator. I'm using a Mink, which is a Heidi Swap heat set laminator. It's the same as your laminator, so you can use a laminator to do this. Right, now Galen got this craft paper for me from Kmart here in Australia. There is no Kmart near where I live, so she was kind enough to get this for me. Now it only needs to be stuck to the back of this paper just to hold in place until you get to put it inside the laminate cover. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to trim off the excess. I find my punch does not really like this paper very much, the craft paper. It doesn't like it very much at all. So now I've got that to follow. I'm just going to cut it by hand. What I like to do now is put a matching lining because that goes there like that. I'll put the matching lining in here. If you don't have this Kmart paper that self-sticks to the backing of the scrapbook paper, just glue it down. Now, the idea of doing that in there is so that when you cut out your thumb hole here, that you've got a little backing piece in there so that you can't see just the white inside of the paper. So we'll do the same again. We're going to trim that off. Now we're going to put a thumb hole in the front here, and I use my center ruler to do that. If you use a round punch or an oval punch on a single piece of paper, chances are you won't get a nice clean cut. So if you just use a piece of scrap cardboard behind there, so I just like using the oval. You can use a big round one. So just eyeball that halfway. I'll show you a tip how to get rid of that sharp shape there. Just get your knife and follow the shape of that oval and cut those corners off. Just round them like that and just widen that. So you're virtually just getting rid of that sharp scoop and making it a nice wider one. So now we can distress ink this. It's optional. I'm using my favourite colour, the Vintage Photo. On this one here, I put a little snarky remark from Tim Holt's booklet. So if you wanted to put something on there, a sticker or a little typed message, you might have an old typewriter, use it and put that on there. It just adds a bit more interest as well. That is also optional. I put that on the inside before I laminated, so that's on there permanent. So let's do that again. I meant to behave, but there were too many other options. I think I'll go that one. So we'll just center that and stick that down. And now we'll just get ready to laminate. We're ready to start laminating. You just need to get your sheet and open it up. I just use the really thin sheets. You don't need anything too heavy to make this. This fold, the fold of the bottom of the pocket goes right down into the fold of the laminate. So when you open the sheet of laminate, there's a fold in it. So put that fold right down into that, as tight as you can get it. Then this here, it's got to be the wrong way up. Remember, there's your pattern. And you're going to make it, oh look, between 1/8 and 1/4 of an inch. 1/4 of an inch might be a bit far, but just around about 1/8 of an inch away. Make sure there's no dirty marks on your laminate because it'll get heat set inside. And then you transfer that over to your laminator and put it through, feeding it in this way first. Heat your laminator up first. It's got to be heated to the right temperature for your laminator and the laminating sheets that you're using. You've got to be a bit of a acrobat here to keep that gap in the right place here. I've just got a bit of a grip here and I'm going to feed that through. I'm not going to let that go until I know that it's going to stay in the right place, because I don't want that flap to move before it gets fed in. If it's a tiny bit moved, it's not a big issue, but if it moves a lot, it'll ruin my project. Have you ever noticed how much brighter the print is when you laminate this paper? Right, now our pocket's all sandwiched in. I'm just going to put it this to my left side, and I'm just going to cut off to have an equal border around here. Then I'm going to hand cut the corners, and I suggest that you start cutting at the bottom. That way you've got a bit of practice on hand cutting your corners by the time you get to the flap. If you're a bit rough on that hand cutting, by the time you get to the top one up here, you're a little bit better at it, because this is the one you're going to see. So you want to try and be pretty good at it by the time you get to the top. All right, now we need to fold that over. You can score it. If you score it, you've got to remember that you might score all the way through the laminate. So just be a little bit careful doing that. On my first one, I scored too heavy and it ripped the laminate in right in here. So if you do score it from this way, on this side here, and score it very lightly. What I find happens is it wants to follow the cardboard anyway. So it doesn't matter where you score, it will want to follow that edge of the cardboard. So get a good crease on it. Now we've got to break the seal. Because we've folded this pocket over, we break the seal around the edge here on that fold line. This part is crucial. If you press too heavy with your knife, you're going to cut all the way through your laminate. We only need to break the seal of the top sheet of laminate. So do it very lightly. Have a very light hand. Between this top layer of laminate and the bottom, there's a tiny, tiny little air pocket. So I'm going to put my ruler right on the edge, and I'm going to barely, it's not even a cut, it's like I'm drawing like a pencil. And you'll see that that has now released that top pocket, that top bit there. And I hardly pressed on that at all. It's very deceiving. You think that you've got to press hard, you do not. Super, super, super light. Now, same again. I'm going to use the edge of that cardboard as my guide. Extremely light cut, and you'll probably get a mark on the bottom of your lemonade or your cardboard back piece, but that won't matter too much. And then you just lift that up. If you missed a bit of it, just go back ever so lightly, because you've already cut one part of it, the top, and then just release it. And you'll be able to just see that you've left that half part of the circle on the bottom part there, and you've got a pocket. That part you really have to take a bit of care with. If you wanted to make one first just out of blank paper and test that how light you have to cut that first, you could do that before you use your real good scrapbook paper, especially if you've only got one sheet of beautiful paper. Do a test run first, and that way you're only going to waste a sheet of laminate paper, a sheet of this laminate, rather than your beautiful scrapbook paper. Now we're going to put a self-stick-on Velcro dot. We need the top and the bottom. We've got a loop and I forget what that's called. That's the loop side and that's the fairy side. So we're going to put the loop side on the bottom and the fairy side on the top. So I'll find halfway first. Again, going to get my furry side because it's self-stick and just sit that on there. You don't need to add glue to this, because if you add glue it will slip around on your laminate. It doesn't hold that well. The second one, take off the loop part and just put that on there. Try not to let any of your fingers go on that sticky part, because you'll weaken your stick. Right, now once that's on there, I'm not pushing it in or anything, I'm just sitting it on there, and then I'll close it. Then I'll push it down hard so the sticker part catches on. All right, now that was on there pretty tight, but then when I go to close it, I'm not going to push it down real tight. I'm just going to let it sit there so that it can open and close without it pulling the sticker off. And it sticks really, really well. If you made up a set of these, you could make them to fit an old box and put them in as a little filing system. You could fix a tab to the back. I'd use a double-sided tape to put these tabs on the back because, like I said, the glue is just a bit too slippery for the laminate. Thanks for tuning in. If you've got any questions and you need any help with anything, feel free to leave a comment, ask me a question. I'd be happy to help you out. I'm Donna. Thanks for watching and bye for now.